Our text for this morning is found in the book of Proverbs, chapter 4, verses 23 through 27. Proverbs chapter 4, beginning with the 23rd verse, King Solomon writes, "Keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it spring the issues of life. Put away from you a deceitful mouth, and put perverse lips far from you. Let your eyes look straight ahead, and your eyelids look right before you. Ponder the path of your feet, and let all your ways be established. Do not turn to the right or the left. Remove your foot from evil." And may God bless the reading of His Word today. As we begin our series of messages throughout this month on the heart, we're going to introduce this particular message with a story and a song. Now, I'm going to tell you the story. Don't panic. I'm not going to sing you the song, okay? Yeah, we don't want to empty the building, all right? But here's the story, and it's a true story. The famous British sea captain named Sir Walter Raleigh was sentenced to be executed on false charges. As he was being led to his execution, the executioner told him how to lay his head in a certain way on the guillotine, so that when the blade fell, it would chop his head off in one swoop. If he didn't lay his head just right, it might take 2 or 3 times and it might hurt a little, you know. But if he'd lay his head just right, one swoop and that'd be over. To which Sir Walter Raleigh replied, and I quote, "My dear sir, it doesn't matter if my head is right or not, so long as my heart is right." Unquote. Well said by Sir Walter Raleigh, which was the last thing he ever said. The heart being right is what our text and message is all about today. And for our heart to be right, we must guard our heart. There's a man who has a song about this guarding the heart. His name is Steve Green. And Steve is going to come and sing it for us now. Keith? Well, we've listened to what Sir Walter Raleigh said about the heart. We've listened to what Steve Green sang about the heart. Now let's focus on what King Solomon says about the heart. The first thing he starts with is his recommendation for us. In the first part of verse 23, he recommends that his son and us keep our heart with all diligence. Now, that word for diligence was a word they used to describe what a guard did at a prison or what a soldier did at a camp. So as a prison would guard, prison guard would guard his prisoners, and as a soldier would guard the camp, so we are to guard the heart. Now, it's obvious why a prison guard must guard the prisoners. And it's obvious why the soldier must guard the camp. The safety, the security, the very lives of people depend on the guard doing his guarding. So, why is the emphasis and importance placed on guarding the heart? Why does Solomon stress and specify the heart? Why didn't he say the head? Why didn't he say the eyes, the ears, the mouth, the hands, feet, nose, or any other part of the body? Why did he focus on the heart? The answer is our second point, his reason. The reason is given in the second part of verse 23. Out of it, the heart, spring the issues of life. Solomon tells his son and us that our heart is the spring or source of how we live our life. What we do, what we say, and even what we think originates, starts, and begins right here in the heart. The heart is the womb and the birth canal of the life that we live. Our outer is controlled by the inner. Our external is governed by the internal. It's what's in our hearts that maneuvers and manipulates our heads and our hands. Our heart is the control tower, the command center for the living of our lives. Our heart is the key that unlocks the closet and lets the real us out. This is why Solomon focuses on the heart. For he knew a long time before the saying became popular that the heart of the matter is the matter of the heart. And to prove his point, Solomon then gives us the results of guarding our hearts. 3 results, all good. Result number 1, clean speech. Verse 24, he tells us that guarding our hearts will put away a deceitful mouth and perverse lips. Those 2 words, deceitful and perverse, mean basically the same thing. Crooked. Crooked. Not straight. Crooked. Not level. Crooked. Not on a plane, but crooked, bent, and forked. When we don't guard our hearts, we speak with a crooked tongue. We speak with a forked and bent tongue. Examples of this: telling lies, using profanity, spreading gossip, spewing slander, putting and running people down with our words. Our words are very powerful and very dangerous. And I don't think most people realize just how dangerous and powerful their words are. Let me give you an example, and this is an extreme example, but it's a good example. Adolf Hitler wrote one book in his life, a book called Mein Kampf. And they calculated that for every word in that book, 125 people lost their lives in World War II. 125 people for every word. Now that is an extreme example, but you see my point. And what determines our words? It's our hearts. Our hearts dictates our speech. Our hearts controls our tongues. Our hearts governs our mouths. What is in here will eventually come out of here. Now when we say something that we shouldn't have said, you know what we say? We say, well, it was a slip of the tongue. It wasn't a slip of the tongue. It was a slip of this baby right here. It was a slip of the heart. Because what's in here is going to eventually slip out of here. And for our speech to be proper and positive, for our speech to be honest and humble and helpful and truthful and uplifting, for our speech to be a credit to our Lord, we have to guard the heart. Second result of guarding the heart is controlled sight. Verse 24, Solomon tells us that guarding our hearts will result in our eyes looking straight ahead and looking right. As a guarded heart will keep our speech straight, so will it keep our sight straight. Who and what we look at and how we look at the who and what we look at is crucial and critical to each of our lives. An example of this, the Garden of Eden, Genesis chapter 3. Before Eve ever ate the fruit, what did she do? Verse 6 says she saw that the tree was good for food and that it was pleasant to the eyes. Eve let the guard to her heart down, and when she did, her eyes went to that tree and to that fruit, to where they should never have gone, and you know the rest of the story. This is the power and danger of what and who we look at with our eyes. And when we don't guard our heart, these babies right here, they're going to roam and wander to where they shouldn't go. It might be a possession of a person. It might be a page in a book. It might be a picture on a screen, or it might be another person. But there are things and people we have no business looking at. Things and people that will put us out of business if we do look at them. Solomon knew this. He knew that the eyes are the mirror of the heart. And he knew that to keep the mirror clean and to avoid eye trouble, we have to guard the heart. And then the third result is careful steps. Verses 26 and 27, Solomon tells us that when we guard our hearts, our path of our feet will be established. They will not turn to the right or left. They will be removed from evil. Again, do you see the connection between a straight speech, a straight sight, and straight steps? It all depends on the guarding of the heart. I think of Lot back in Genesis chapter 13, when he was given a choice of land and steps to take. He chose the wrong path and he took the wrong steps. The path and steps that led him to his future hell called Sodom and Gomorrah. And this is what happens when we don't guard our hearts. Our steps aren't guided, but misguided. Our steps lead us to our own time in our own Sodom and Gomorrah. Our steps can cost us our faith, our family, and our fortune, as they did with Lot. There are places that our feet should never touch. There are places we should never go. There are doors that we should never dark. And to avoid these, we have to guard the heart. The heart is the compass, the map, and the GPS that guards our steps. Solomon knew this, and that's why he urges his son and us to guard our hearts. There was a good friend of mine years ago. He and I, we did a lot of things together. One of the things we did a lot of was play baseball. Wilson was our catcher, and he was a good catcher. Wilson was as tough as a pine knot, about as big as a pine knot. But Wilson was just a little bit crazy. And let me tell you what I mean. When he caught, and we're talking hardball grown men now, when he caught, he would not wear shin guards. Caleb, can you imagine that? I told you he's crazy. If you've ever caught any baseball, you know you wear shin guards. Not Wilson. He'd wear a mask, he'd wear his chest protector, but he wouldn't wear shin guards. He said, they get in my way. And we'd tell him, Wilson, you better wear your shin guards. And he'd tell us what we could do with our shin guards, okay? Well, eventually, you know what happened. One day we're playing, and the batter fouls the ball off, and it catches Wilson right on the shin. It sounded like a shotgun. And Wilson went down like he was shot. And he didn't get up. And we had to tote Wilson off the field. Now, it didn't kill him, and it didn't cripple him, but it got his attention. Now, here's why I tell you that story. You can be like Wilson and not wear your heart guard, but you're going to get it. You're going to get it. Not in the shin, but in the heart. Wear your heart guard. You say, okay, Brother Mike, what's my heart guard? It's not a what. It's a who. Jesus Christ. You give Jesus Christ your heart. Because when He's got your heart, He's got your speech, He's got your sight, and He's got your steps. When you give Jesus your heart, He's got your head and He's got your hands. You give Jesus Christ your heart, He's got your mind, He's got your mouth, and may I add, He's got your money. Billy Graham could stand up here and preach till he was blue in the face about tithing. But unless you give Jesus Christ your heart, it won't do a bit of good. But when you give Jesus Christ your heart, He's got you. He's got you. So how do we guard our hearts? We give our hearts away. We give our hearts away to Jesus Christ. Guard your heart, my friend. Guard your heart, or the time will come when you wish you had. Guard your heart. Give it to the heart specialist. Would you bow with me, please?